Okay.
All right, today is Monday, May 4th, 2020. This is the Kubernetes CSI implementation meeting. So let's just jump right into our 119 status. Enhancements freeze is in 2 weeks on May 19th. So the focus now is primarily getting all the KEPs that we want to do reviewed and approved in the next 2 weeks. Let's see, all the stuff that's in progress. I think Fabio has merged the two PRs that removes V1 beta support for the CSI node object from external provisioner and external attacher. That's going to put our minimum Kubernetes version at 117. Is it 117? I think so. So that's going to be a major update in the upcoming release. While we are doing that, we are going to also take the opportunity to make a number of other breaking changes in the provisioner. So I have a number of issues tagged. I think actually most of them have gone in. There's like 1 or 2 left that still have to be done, so that's making good progress. Next up is migrating our image publishing process over from Quay to GCB, which is what is going to be supported by the Kubernetes project.
So just today, Vital contacted me again asking for next steps, and he proposed some changes to how what kind of commands we run. We still have one major issue open, and that is about versioning, because our current makefile assumes that we have a Git file, the Git commits Git directory locally available, so that we can do things like look at tags to figure out what we are building. And this cloud build thing doesn't copy the Git directory, so we have to make changes to how the desired version of the final image is calculated. So that's an open.
Is there a way to like pass the tags through?
Yeah, there are some env variables that are set by the cloud build file. That's basically what we have to use. It's just means changing to the current logic that we have. It's certainly doable, and Vital is working on that. So
what's the relation between cloud build and using GCR? Why are the two linked?
I think that's because in the cloud build service, we do have permissions or credentials to push to GCR. We don't have that in the normal Pro jobs.
Okay.
And we don't have it in Travis CI, obviously.
So if we want to use GCR, we have to move to this cloud build mechanism,
Yeah.
because it's the only thing that has permissions. I get it. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's kind of the logic. And that's because that's a more secured environment. You don't, well, theoretically, we can still put anything into that cloud build file. We could still do nasty things, but I guess it will be a bit more controlled. And in particular with Brow, you get lots of jobs that are just plain test jobs where people just don't trust the cluster enough to put credentials into it. I think that's the underlying reason and the reasoning.
All right, sounds good. And I think Jing has also been experimenting with the new cloud build flow to enable Windows builds. And I think she said that is also, it looks like it's working. At least the images are being pushed to the staging GCR.
Yeah, that's correct, I think.
All right, awesome.
And it's a good question whether it's now. Well, it's not. There will be another PR against host driver registrar where we are currently experimenting with that.
Yeah.
I need to
And
check whether it
once,
includes Windows, but it should. We should definitely make sure
okay.
that it is covered.
And once we confirm the whole end-to-end is working, then we can put this stuff into release tools and put
Yeah,
it in all
that's
the other
that's
repos.
then the next step. We kind of have to generalize that concept again, make sure that we roll it out to all repos, and I think then we also need to add these promotion jobs, which is yet another step. So we're currently pushed to a staging area, and then we have to use another process for getting images from staging into the final destination. I think that's just listing images somewhere in what's called image promoter or so. So we still need to look at that too.
Okay.
Uh,
Do you know, is the staging GCR public? Like,
I
can we
think yeah,
pull images?
it's public. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's already
So we can at
possible to.
least do like our CI testing against staging, and
Yeah,
then
that's again
when
that's a good question how we want to handle that. The current CI testing basically happens before we tag, and that's how it has been done traditionally. We prepare source code. When we think that it's ready, we set a tag, and that's it. And then setting the tag triggers image building, and those images become the release images without further testing. There's currently nothing in the pipeline where we say, okay, we have images that are tagged with a final version in a staging area, and now we run some other testing, whether it's manual or automatic, that confirms that these are the right images. That's basically what happened before, because we don't tag anything unless it passes all the pre-merge and post-merge jobs and has been shown healthy in the dashboard. I
Mhm.
don't know whether we
Is
want to
it
change that. We could certainly have some other testing jobs now that pull from that staging area, but currently that's not something that we have.
is it reasonable to like flip to change all of our jobs to just test the staging images, even the like unreleased ones, and then once we actually do the release, then we finally finally promote the image?
For the periodic jobs, we can probably do that. They then, well,
I guess so.
but
Like the pull
the,
jobs could test against like official versions, but then the CI
that's
jobs could
yeah,
test
but
against staging.
that's the canary jobs. The canary jobs, they can pull from GCR staging. That mostly would be identical to what we are currently doing. Yeah, that should be doable. The pre-merge that has to be done the same way as we do it now. We have to build the local component with changes, use that image during testing, and also we should be testing against the stable releases, because otherwise we just get too many unrelated changes into the same job result. That wouldn't make sense. I wonder what we should do with promotion, whether that is then manual or just automatic. I'm not sure exactly how that image promotion is supposed to be triggered.
I think right now it's manual. You have to submit a PR to add
Okay,
the versions that you want to promote.
so basically you have to push that image to staging and manually do a release. Releasing then becomes a longer process with more manual touch points. Is that something that
Yes.
we want, or I don't know?
I mean, I think if this is the way the Kubernetes project is recommending that we do things, then we should follow it.
Okay. Yeah, then let's try that. Let's get all of the images into staging with a canary tag, then switch the brow jobs for canary that we test with those. Yeah, sounds like a plan.
All right. Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you for the update. Next up is Windows. I think Jing and Deep are not here, so we'll go ahead and skip that, but I think they're making progress. Next up is Volume Health.
Yeah, so I've been reviewing Nick's changes. I have some questions. So during the CS spec review, we talked about that if there are messages coming from both controller and node plugin, and then if they are different from each other, then maybe confusion. I think Saad was suggesting that we could, for the node plugins message, we could put the event on the pod. So if like multiple pods are using the same volume, then we will just report events on all the pods. Is this something that we want to do? Just want to confirm that before I ask Nick to make the changes, because right now he put it on the PVC, but then, you know, messages, the basically all the events coming from both node and controller on PVC right now.
I think that sounds reasonable.
Okay. All right, then I will just ask him to do that. And then I think there's another thing is there's something in the cap that we are talking about. We also want to watch, you know, those like the nodes that are attached to those volumes. And then if the node is down, we're going to log an event basically saying, okay, all these pods are using these volumes, but this node is down, something like that. But this is not from the, you know, the CSI source that we were.
That's just totally just Kubernetes.
Yeah, so do we want to log event? Is okay? I just want to double check.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
But that would be in like the controller part, not
it is controller, yeah. So that is
Okay.
controller. It's just, I think probably we'll just it's going to be a different type, I guess. It's a little different, yeah. So okay, that's fine. I just want, because he already has a code there.
That could be a completely different module.
It is, yeah, it is a different. He has like a node watcher, so it's part of the controller. Controller will call that thing. This is in addition to this, you know, the other part that is getting information from CSI, but it's just a different event. So okay, I think, yeah.
Is it actually thinking about it? Is it actually specific to like a driver?
What do you mean specific? It's not specific like, driver. This one is actually. This one, I think, is not specific because it's not going to call the CSS back. This is basically just to get some notification from the node. I believe when node goes down, we will be able to get that even we know that node is down. So in that case, we just go notify, add this on the PVC saying, oh, okay, this pod is using this, but this node is down, something like that. This is not really going through CSI.
Is it something that only some drivers would want to enable, like only local storage drivers?
I think this might be useful for other drivers as well, because yeah, I think this type of
for
message,
other storage systems like NFS, it doesn't really matter.
NFS doesn't matter. So this is only for this. Is this only for those that implemented the what node publish or something? Or is it? Oh no, the controller publish. Is it, or the attach part? That this would be useful. No,
I think this is. So this, I think the motivation for this came for local volumes in particular.
Oh, okay.
Because when the node is down, then the whole volume is gone.
Right.
But for other plugins that are not local volumes, it doesn't really matter if the node is down, because those other plugins will, you know, be able to reattach to different nodes.
Okay. So then,
So I guess this is something that
like a special case. We probably want to at least have some flag to like just enable the. I think probably we don't want to add logic there to specifically saying this is only for local PV, right? So we just want to maybe put a flag there so this can be enabled or disabled. That will be more flexible.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I think that sounds good.
All right, so I'll just do that. And then the people who are doing the release saying that we are missing a alpha criteria. We actually have like alpha to beta, beta to GA, but we don't have anything just under alpha. So I just added something. So okay, I will just assign that to you so you can take a look.
Okay.
And I don't know if this one, for alpha, do we need a like E2E test for this for alpha?
It might be good.
So
at
because if that's the case, then we need to, the timeline. We need to be more careful with the timeline if we do that, right? So that's that part is entry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, it will be less restricted. But if we need that, then we need to be more.
I guess, I mean, maybe for alpha, it would be nice to have an E2E test, but maybe
we're
it's
just
nice
not required. Okay, if that's the case, then I just won't add that in there. I will just add unit test, and then alpha to beta, then we'll have the.
Yeah. The other thing to look at, I think SIG architecture is trying to put together like some more guidelines about feature readiness or production readiness. So I think what the KEP is proposing is to establish guidelines for all features in terms of what requirements are needed for alpha, beta, and GA.
Okay, is this something that they have like a cap or they have something?
I think there's a cap out for it. But that's something we can maybe try to follow.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
All right. Thank you for the update. Next, we have snapshots.
Yeah, so there are some bug fixing. And I think Shang Chen has been due to review the metrics PR. I'm fine with that now.
Okay.
If you can.
I'll take another look at it.
Okay. I think. Yeah. I think that's it.
And Grant is adding the E2E test for retain.
Right. So I think you added some comments, right? So Grant is probably addressing the comments.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying I'm still addressing them. So hopefully the next couple of days I'll have that done.
Okay, awesome. I think the most important thing is just to make sure that we don't leak snapshots at the end of the test.
Yeah, and there's actually one bug that is like somebody started but then didn't finish. And there's one, I think, because the snapshot class is already deleted. So we were having a check there. I think somebody was addressing that. But this create snapshot time, I need to move that one. I think this one's done. I don't think there's anything left. That one need to be moved. Okay. Yeah, so.
Sounds good. And you already released the patch?
You're right, the 2.211. Yeah, that's already released.
Were there any changes to the sidecar or just the controller?
That one is only changing the controller, not the sidecar.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much. Next, we have volume expansion. Is Hemant here? No. I think, let's see, we had a meeting about volume expansion last week. Were we going to have, did we still need another meeting?
I was not on the meeting on Friday, but I talked to Hemant today and he wants to have yet another meeting probably this week.
Oh, there is
Okay.
a CSI meeting. Sad set up another
Yeah.
CSI community
Yeah.
meeting because I think there are a couple of issues he wants to discuss with those other people there. People
Uh-huh.
from CSI community. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thursday.
Making
I think Thursday.
slow, steady progress on this. All right. Let's see. Another thing I think that's been getting a lot more attention is this. It seems like there's a performance regression between 116 and 117, I think. Where is it? Is this the right one? I think it is. But someone was saying that when they upgraded to 117, let me use this bug. Yeah, when they upgraded to 117, attach started taking like minutes and hours to finish. And I think we narrowed it down. I was talking to Jordan, but I think Jordan said that there was a change that went in 117 in the client Go that actually fixes throttling. I think before what happened was some clients were just not being throttled, and so in 117 he made a change to fix that and actually put in the default throttling period. And I have a strong suspicion that that change is the one that's the reason why 117 is starting to see a lot of problems. And I think the problem comes down to the verified volumes attach call. It's actually doing a get instead of using the informer. So I think, so it will basically do a get for every volume every minute. And that is causing the API server to throttle the controller manager. So I think the fix is straightforward. We just have to change that get call to use an informer. I'm asking someone on my team to help look at that and to get that into 119 and then backport it. So yeah, that's an important issue that I think we should solve this release and backport. Other than that, I think we also another change that we wanted to make was to actually remove the mount point checks in node publish and node stage. I think we can make it. The only thing is that SIG release is telling us to reconsider putting any change in that could potentially be breaking. So I think we have to sort of enumerate all of the issues that we think that this removing the mount check is going to fix, and then balance that with the potential of breaking drivers this release. But that's another, I think, important change that we want to try to get in.
Well, that's not going to fix anything other than spec compliance, right?
No, there's actually like bugs because of that.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware.
Yeah. There's a lot of places in kubelet that assumes things are mount points, and for drivers that don't actually create mount points, that causes funny like recovery issues, I think. So
We
yeah,
may
I
even
think that's the other. So sorry.
we may even have a flaky test, the one that you assigned to me a while back, that may be traced to this one issue.
Okay, that's interesting. But the host path driver does do a mount, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I need to check the issue again. But there was something where Jan and I were discussing whether that may be related. I probably need to look up the details. Sorry.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, I guess one thing is if the check is using is likely not mount point instead of is not mount point, I think is likely not mount point doesn't work properly if the mount is a bind mount within the root file system. So
Wait,
that might be, maybe that's the issue you're saying.
what does it return? It says it returns true
It returns
when it actually is a mount point.
I have to think about this because the double negative always
Yeah.
throws me off. But basically, what the function is doing is it's checking if the current directory and the parent directory are in different file systems.
No, I remember what it does because I stole this function and I use it. And yeah, as long as you only use it for certain things, you never get into trouble.
Yeah. But yeah, if something is a bind mount within the same file system, then this check isn't going to return is not mount point. So I guess that means it returns false.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, and it can't properly detect the bind mount is on the root with the root file system is the main problem.
That's clever.
I just looked up this one issue that I looked at, the flaky test. It's the storage capacity exhausted late binding with topology. And looking at this one log, I found that kubelet was calling node unpublished volume unexpectedly. It does that successfully and then keeps doing it for at least a few times or so. And that's unexpected. And the test that I added basically does a strict checking of those calls and then falls over if kubelet does that. We don't know why that is, but we were basically speculating that it might be related to, yeah, it might be a timing issue. So one node unpublished, well, I don't know. It just seemed odd behavior from kubelet. And
Okay, does that mean do you know if it's just node unpublished is getting called more than it should, or that
yes,
node
yeah.
unpublished wasn't supposed to be called and it's calling it?
Let me check. I quoted that.
Like there's a difference between calling node unpublished too many times versus calling node unpublished when like we're not ready to unpublish yet.
It's sorry, I misread. It's the other way around. Node stage volume and node publish volume get called too often. So there is a successful node stage volume followed by a successful node publish volume, and then kubelet does the same thing again. Another node stage volume and another node publish volume, and then it proceeds with node unpublish.
Okay.
And this is with a mock driver, which I think doesn't mount anything. That's why we concluded that it might be related.
Okay. It might be, yeah, it might be worth, I don't know, trying to see why after the success it tries getting called again. That means like something else failed down the line, I guess.
But what should fail? I mean, it's not actually. Well, it actually, yeah, it does try to start a pod on that node. But I don't know. Could that potentially mean that it goes back to publishing volumes? I don't know.
I guess it's strange because it's supposed to be once published is successful.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be calling publish again. So
exactly.
maybe there's a race or something.
Well, while we are discussing this flaky test issue, is it still an issue? How often does it still occur? Because a quick fix would be to relax the testing itself without without addressing the underlying issue. Or should we just accept the flake until we finally really figure out what the root cause is? Because the test itself isn't about that. It's really just a bit stricter than the other tests that we have around that.
I think one way to check is to, one way to check is to go to the triage link and see how flaky it is. Is this the triage link?
And I accidentally created a duplicate. I had forgotten that you already had one, so I'll probably just close my copy. I used this report issue link myself and added some more investigations there. But I'll just move it back to the original issue.
It seems to be flanking 1 to 2 times per hour. In the relative scheme of things, I'm not sure how flaky that is. I know test infra used to send out reports of like the most flakiest jobs, or the most flakiest tests. I'm not sure. I haven't seen that recently. Let's see if I can. They used to send it out to Kubernetes dev, I think. Anyway, maybe we can follow up with test infra to see if they have like a good search or something to show the flakiest tests. And if it's up there, then yeah, maybe as just a short-term thing, we can just relax the test and then open another issue to track the problem, and we can try to look at it some other time.
Yeah, the current thinking was that if we merge that other PR soonish, we would know whether the flake goes away. But if we don't merge that, yeah, we might have to do something else.
Okay. Well, maybe something something I'll try to spend some time on this week is to try to go through all the issues we have related to assuming things are mount points. And then once we have like a good sense of what actual issues this will fix, then we can make a call on whether or not it's important enough to get into this release or to delay it one more release. All right. The last sort of overall theme that we're trying to do in 119 is to add some conformance tests that exercise the CSI code path. So I think I have a PR out to do that. It was blocking on the not using the V1 beta APIs. I think now that we have some changes out to do that, I can at least try it out with the release candidate images and see if all of the checks are passing now. And we can make some progress on that. I think this is something that Christian also said he was going to help out with for the CSI driver tests.
This is conformance for CSI plugins, not for Kubernetes.
No, this is this is conformance for Kubernetes.
Oh, okay.
To ensure that Kubernetes distributions support CSI, the CSI spec. I guess.
Okay.
It's not
yeah.
like super strict with the CSI spec like CSI Sanity is. It's just testing like really basic stuff like, can you run a CSI driver and does it mount properly? That's about mostly what it's doing. but it mostly is there to make sure that Kubernetes distributions haven't like done something special to the CSI implementation so that like, you know, to make it work for only one specific plugin and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I have to discuss. Is there anything else anyone wants to talk about?
So I do want to ask you about that, the storage pool thing. I'm not sure if you get a chance to look at that.
Yeah, I thought about it a little bit last week. Maybe let's follow up offline today.
Sure.
Because we're already over time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there have been some questions over the extended weekend. The 1st of May was actually a public holiday in Germany. I replied to that today. So I think I replied to all comments that were pending or were new in that cap. You pulled in, I think, the guys from Autoscaler and from the scheduling framework. They do have pointed out valid issues or valid interaction problems with Autoscaler, but I don't see those as a blocker, to be honest. It's something to work on, but it's not insurmountable. And even if that can't be addressed, I think there are still classes of Kubernetes clusters, basically those without autoscaling, where it's useful. So I hope that we can agree that this is still a useful cap to work on. For the API issue, I added
just
one
want to
comment.
make sure.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
And the other open question that we really have is about how granular do we make the API objects? You had questions whether we really need the CSI storage pool object. And I added one comment where I try to explain what the alternative really is, which is basically do away with the CSI storage pool, have more fine-grained objects that just have topology, storage class, and the corresponding capacity value. I still prefer the current API in the cap for two reasons. One is I think it's actually a better granularity for the for the access patterns, but that's basically guesswork. We would have to build it and then define some kind of benchmark to determine which approach causes less traffic with the API server or is more efficient storage-wise. So this is all speculation at this point. But the other is really that the other cap that VMware was working on basically needs the storage pool concept. And I think it's worthwhile to keep that in mind, because
Yeah, so I
otherwise,
think
yeah, I think that's what you need to discuss with Xing.
yeah, so I think that's what I'm basically trying to discuss with Xing, which is to see if we can address their use case without actually having an explicit storage pool concept, and see if we can simplify the model as much as we can, because I'm afraid that the more detailed that we make the API, like it's gonna get too complicated to reason about and to interpret.
That may be true, but internally, I think we still end up with a data structure for efficient access that looks like these objects. So I'm fine.
So
but
the main model that I want. Oh, sorry. The main model that I want to iron out is like storage classes storage pool. Is it a one-to-one mapping, one-to-many mapping, many-to-one mapping, or many-to-many mapping? Because that definition, depending on what we go, can make things really complicated or really simple.
Yeah, okay. Just to address that, I think it is many-to-many, depending on how storage drivers are using parameters.
Yes, but I think like I want to push away from many-to-many because that is the most complicated to reason about, right? And I want to move towards something, you know, simpler is I think better. If we make it many-to-many, I think it's gonna open up too many different paths that we need to consider, and it's gonna make the design complicated.
I don't think you can actually remove it, or do you? But you can already get to one too many by limiting what people are allowed to do with storage classes. And that is, in a way, an API change, taking away functionality that people may rely on. Just my 2 cents. But
well, okay, we should follow up on this because I think this is complicated, but like, I really want to move towards simplifying the API because I think the more complicated it is, the less likely we're all going to be able to agree on something. And
so
I'm afraid it's going to stall.
is the API that I described as alternative in my comment, is that what you have in mind with one CSI storage capacity object? Is that what you see as the simpler solution?
I'll need to look at it. I haven't looked at it yet, but I'll
Okay.
take a look at it in the next day or two and get back to you.
Okay. Well, the class, the structure that I basically wrote down is not the full one. We probably want to have spec and status again with the capacity and the status, but I just really wrote down the minimal amount of immersion information that we need in that object, which is topology, storage class, and capacity, because these 3 go together. But yeah, let's give you a chance to look at that. But it would be good to move forward with that.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
All right. Any other topics? All right. We'll end the meeting for today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.